Yes, people have died in MMA. It doesn't happen often, especially not under the watchful eyes of top promotions like the UFC, but when it does, it shakes the entire combat sports world. The deaths that have occurred have mostly been in amateur events, smaller leagues, or places with little to no regulation. But the uncomfortable truth is that even under official, sanctioned MMA rules, death is not outside the realm of possibility. It's rare, but not impossible. MMA is built on a set of rules designed to balance chaos and control. They exist not to eliminate risk, but to reduce it just enough to make the sport legal and competitive. You can't strike the back of the head, not because it's unfair, but because that's where the brainstem lives. Disrupt that, and you risk instantly shutting down someone's heart rate or breathing. You can't knee a grounded opponent in most rule sets, because that angle, that force, delivered to a vulnerable head is just too much. But the things you can do under MMA rules are still extremely dangerous. Chokes that cut off blood flow to the brain, like the rear naked choke or triangle, can render someone unconscious in seconds. If held too long, even just a few extra seconds, they can cause brain damage or worse. And most fans don't realize, every time a fighter goes out and the ref waves it off, they just lost oxygen to their brain. That's not sleep. That's a medical event. Strikes to the head, elbows, punches, kicks, spinning back fists are part of the game. They're also the same kind of trauma that causes concussions and long-term brain injury. Fighters get dropped and bounced off the canvas, often multiple times in a fight, and go right back to training within weeks. The brain doesn't recover that quickly, even if the swelling and symptoms go away. Repeated trauma can lead to something far more permanent. Many fighters retire with CTE, a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated head trauma. Symptoms don't show up right away, they creep in over time. Depression, memory loss, confusion, sudden mood swings, aggression. It doesn't happen to everyone, but it happens enough that the risk is real, and it casts a long shadow over the sport. Then there's the risk of slams. Slams are legal. In fact, some of the most iconic knockouts in MMA history came from brutal slams, when one fighter picks the other up and drives them headfirst into the mat. If a neck twists the wrong way, if a fighter lands awkwardly, the consequences can be catastrophic: spinal cord injuries, paralysis, even death. These aren't theoretical risks. Fighters have been hospitalized from slams. Some never return to the cage again. Even body shots can be deadly under specific conditions. A perfectly timed liver shot can shut down the nervous system. Repeated strikes to the abdomen can cause internal bleeding. And if a fighter enters the cage dehydrated, something that's still shockingly common due to extreme weight cutting, their organs are already at risk before the first punch is thrown. Fighters have died due to complications from cutting weight, passing out backstage, or suffering heart failure before ever stepping into the cage. All of this is why regulation matters. Referees are trained to recognize when a fighter is no longer defending themselves. Doctors are cage-aside, ready to intervene. Corners can throw in the towel, though they rarely do. But even with all of that, the fight moves fast. Too fast. Sometimes the ref doesn't step in quickly enough. Sometimes a fighter refuses to tap, or a corner hesitates a few seconds too long. Those tiny delays can be the difference between recovery and irreversible damage. So why do fighters keep doing it? Why walk into a cage knowing all of this? Because for many of them, the risk is part of the meaning. They've trained for years, built their identity around surviving what others can't. The cage is where they test their will, their discipline, their limits. They don't want it to be safe. They want it to be real. And for the fans watching, whether they admit it or not, that edge of danger is part of what makes the sport thrilling. We watch because we know it's not fake. The truth is, fighting has always been part of human nature. It predates governments, rules, and organized sport. MMA, with all its blood and sweat and raw intensity, is just a modern version of something ancient. The rules make it watchable, they make it competitive, but they don't make it safe. So yes, even with all the rules, all the refs, and all the doctors, MMA can still kill someone. And everyone in the cage knows that. That's what makes it so real, so dangerous, so respected, and so unforgettable.